Hi, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Elena Boyd, and I am the founder and the CEO of the Changemaker Institute. And I wanted to extend the warmest welcome to you to this webinar, How Successful Social Impact Companies Become Sustainable and Profitable. Just to warm everyone up, just let me know where you guys are calling in from. You may see a chat function right at the bottom of your screen. So if you would let me know where you guys are calling from, I would love to know that. New Jersey. So Colleen, thanks. It's good to see you. So I think this is AirMeet, and it may be a little bit different from Zoom. We are moving away from Zoom. So let me give you a little bit of navigation so that you kind of get more familiar with the system. The reason why we are moving away from Zoom is because we are trying to create a more immersive, engaging platform for our audience to engage with us. So if you've been to some of our events before, we've been using Zoom, and we decided to move to AirMeet so that you could the system is a little bit different and a little bit more fun. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see a chat function, which would allow you to chat, and I should be able to see that. And then you could also network with other people in the audience, right? So, with Zoom, sometimes you have to, click into the chat and share your information. But here, what you could do is you could go to the top right, I believe. There is a card that would allow you to fill in all your information, including social network links and all that. And you can share that with other participants, right? So that they can get your link. And there are also emoji buttons right at the bottom. So you could share reactions. So let's just say here, right? And then, sometimes as the presenter, it's good to know whether if you said something that resonates with you, it's good to get some feedback back. And if it does, then let us know as well, so we can, reorient what we're saying. And then there's also a raise hand button. So if you have a question that you want to ask, especially during the Q&A, there is a raise hand button. And when you click that, I can actually invite you on stage so that everyone can see both of you can see you with your question, and I can answer your question in real time. So that's also a really nice function of AirMeet. So be as engaged as you can be, I think this would be a really fun platform to have events. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I noticed that a lot of social entrepreneurs, they value networking and collaboration so much that, many times with events, it's good to collaborate. I mean, it's good to network. So after this webinar, I've arranged for a one-on-one networking session. Also, it's automated through AirMeet. So after this session, there will be a half an hour networking session where the platform will pair you with one other attendee for 5 minutes, where you can actually exchange ideas and collaborate. And then the system will move you on to the next person, right? So there will be a networking session after this, and I want to invite you to stay as well. All right, so that's the housekeeping method that I wanted to highlight. The last thing that I wanted to also mention, if you look on your right, you should be able to see a leaderboard. So this is another exciting thing about AirMeet, is that you guys get to participate. And if you click on the leaderboard, you should be able to see how you guys can earn points, right? So if you even enter the event, you get like 50 points per, just for entering the event. And then if you add your interest into your card, right, you get an additional 50 points. If you share your social media link, you get points. If you add an introduction about who you are, what you do, what your business is about, you get an additional points. If you engage, share an emoji, or chat, you get points as well. So you can look at that and see how you can earn points. And the reason why I think this is so exciting is because at the end of the webinar, I want to make an announcement. And we will be announcing prizes. So engage as much as you can, with me as the presenter, but also with each other, right? and we will get the event, the webinar going. And I want this to be as highly interactive as possible because AirMeet as a platform allows for that. And so let's get the webinar going. Right, so I wanted to say again, welcome. So Colleen is calling in from New Jersey. Prasan is from India. Prasan is a really good friend from AirMeet, and it's wonderful that he's here. Renee is from New Orleans. I didn't mention that I'm actually based in Jackson, Mississippi, and so we are about 2 hours away from New Orleans, Renee, and we go there quite often. And so love New Orleans, Washington, D.C. So it's good that you guys are learning the platform. Just a really quick check. How many of you are familiar with AirMeet, besides Prasant, of course? Or are you guys kind of usually use Zoom? First timer? Okay. Oh, Peter is here. So Peter is from my law school. So I teach law as well, and Peter is a student of mine. So hi, Peter. I'm glad that you're here. All right. So first time. So most of you guys are first time users. Me too, actually. I mean, I've used it once or twice for other events, but I'm still pretty new using AirMeet. But I love it. It's really cool. So let's get started with the presentation, and then let's get going. So good afternoon, Peter. First timer. Oh, Shouts, good to see you. Can't stay for networking. Oh, I wish you would, but there will be other opportunities, right? So let's get started with the presentation, and then I want you guys to think about your own social impact business as I go through the material, because I think a lot of some of the ideas that I'm going to present might be immediately usable, like you can implement it right away. So I want you to think about some of the comments or some of the remarks that I will have, and of course engage with me as much as you can through the chat and raising your hands and all that, so that I know where we're going with the presentation. Right. So let's get started. Let me pull up my slides. Right. So the presentation is titled How Successful Social Impact Companies Become Sustainable and Profitable. There has to be a world where no mother ever has to say to her child, "Today is not your turn to eat." So that was the one statement that I heard from a visiting priest in the church that I attend with my family here in Clinton, Mississippi, that changed everything for me in terms of how I looked at the world and how I looked at my career. So this is an actual picture of the church that we attend, Holy Savior Church. And when the priest came, he was actually a visiting priest who was talking about his missionary work. And he described how poor some people were in the world, that sometimes a mother would have to say to a child, "Today is not your turn to eat." And as he was talking about that, his experience working in poorer parts of the world, the church was completely silent. Everyone hung on to every single word that he said. But when he said this statement, there has to be a world where no mother ever has to say to a child, "Today is not your turn to eat." The church was in complete silence, right? He paused after he said this, and the church was in complete silence. And you could hear a pin drop. And my daughter and I were sitting on the right side of the church, as you can see in this picture here. We were on the right end of the church. And when he said that and there was complete silence, I started crying, because I could never imagine saying that to my daughter, especially if she was hungry, that today is not your turn to eat. Now I've attended the top schools in all over the world, right? I went to the University of London, Cambridge, Stanford. I received the top scholarships. I published my dissertation into a copyright book. I have publications on the Social Science Research Network that you can actually look up. And I actually teach law in Mississippi College Law School today. So I've had a lot of really good professors open my eyes up to a lot of different things. But it was that priest, that visiting priest, with that one statement that actually opened my heart to social impact work. And so, being trained as a lawyer, I think about things like social justice, equity, freedom on a very intellectual level. I teach property, intellectual property, copyright particularly, but also cyber law, law and economics at the law school. And it wasn't until that homily where I actually started thinking about social impact more from not so much as an intellectual level, but something that we need to do, right? When I think about my daughter and I think about her growing up in the world, the idea that we need to be more conscious about what we do in the world really resonated with me. And so when we think about when I write and I think and I teach about things like progress, the word progress is actually in the U.S. Constitution, and copyright law and patent laws are designed to specifically promote progress of science and the useful arts. But the Constitution doesn't define what progress means. And so as a result, through my work, I've come to the conclusion that maybe when we talk about progress, we need to think about the impact that we are doing, especially as businesses, on society. And that's why I spend a lot of time thinking about what social impact means. And it makes sense, right, for companies to actually think about social impact because the market is actually demanding that, right? So 90% of consumers actually will switch brands and support a company that has a good cause, and they're very likely to boycott brands that are irresponsible and not as conscious about the work they're doing. 64% of millennials will actually consider a company's ESG commitments when deciding where to work, and 88% say that when they work with a company that provides them with opportunities to make a positive impact, 88% find that their job is more fulfilling. 30% of corporate brand reputation is based on good citizenship and good governance. So that's pretty huge, right? So aside from goods and services, right, products and services, people base a company's brand reputation on good governance and good citizenship, and that's 30%, right, of a company's value. So that's a pretty significant statistic. And we also have statistics from Gallup that show that if you can connect, or if you can give your employees a connection to what you are doing as the mission and the purpose of your company, 10%, just a 10% in employees connection would result in a 4% improvement in profitability. So there is a lot of value in actually thinking about how your company makes an impact. But with a lot of social impact companies, and we started the Changemaker Institute early last year, and the whole of summer last year, I did a lot of events like this and talked to many social impact businesses, and there are several problems that make it difficult for social impact companies to be profitable and sustainable, and I call it the problem of misalignment. So if you think about it, many entrepreneurs, like all of us, we go into business to make a difference and make an impact in the world, but many times we are not able to align that mission with impact, right? So there is that misalignment. The second misalignment is that sometimes you have a plan to create an impact, right? And you've put a lot of thought into your impact work, but that's not supporting sustainable profits and growth. And the third problem of misalignment is that there are so many products and services out there that can have an impact, but companies don't know how to make an impact with what they have. So this is a picture that I took from Bigger Bagel. So Peter would know the restaurant. This is a restaurant in Jackson, and they sell bagels. And we go there very often to have breakfast, but I don't know if you can actually see this, right? But they say that a lot that the to address food security, at the end of the day, what they do is they turn their unused bagel, right, or bagels that they do not sell, into bagel chips, right? And that's good. So it keeps it addresses the question of food security and sustainability within the company, right? But there is so much they can do, so much more they can do in terms of impact, in that they could actually partner with a lot of local organizations in the Jackson area that actually need food, right? So the Jackson area, there are a lot of poverty in the Jackson area, and imagine the impact that this one restaurant can actually make if they were actually more conscious about how they thought about their role as a social impact company, right? So there is this problem, there is this issue with misalignment. And so the question is, how do we help companies make an impact and make that impact meaningful, right? So the thing with the problem that social entrepreneurs and social impact businesses face is pretty much standard, right? With any business. Number one is, how do you find sustainable revenue streams, right? So 71% of social entrepreneurs actually struggle with that question. And then the next question is, well, how do we find the right kind of capital or the right kind of financing to sustain the business, right? So that's a 60% rate where social entrepreneurs actually have that kind of difficulty. Yet, 1 in every 4 business that starts is a social enterprise. So there are actually people that want to start business and they want to start a social impact business. Right, and we need to help these people because a social impact business actually has tremendous value in the economy, right? A social impact business boosts the economy. You can create significant social change, and you can also empower people significantly by the choices you make within your organization, who you choose to employ, how you treat your employees, the opportunities you give to them. That makes a huge difference in terms of addressing problems like poverty and hunger and all that, right? So social impact companies are vital to the economy. And the question is, well, how do we support them, right? And if we look at social impact companies, Patagonia is of course the quintessential brand, right? They have been successful. So it's not a situation where you run a social impact business and then all your profits go towards sustaining that impact. That's not the case. Companies have actually figured out how to make an impact and yet remain profitable, right? So if you look at Patagonia, they have, and they do so much work with the environment, but they have a generated revenue of 18.11 million, and they have a gross profit of 4.5 million last year. Qualcomm is also another really good social impact company to look at, right? Because they deal with wireless technology, so a completely different market in industry, but they have a whole suite of social impact programs that they do, from designing products and services in a way that's innovative and that supports their community, but they're also taking care of their people, right, and having very good employee programs. But also they also are invested in STEM education, right? So they have a lot of resources put into social impact work. But if you look at their revenue, the trajectory of their revenue and profits, it's only grown, right? So they started their social impact program around 2010, right? And you can see an upward trajectory with their revenue and their profits, right? So companies have figured it out, right? They have figured out how to become sustainable and profitable as a social impact company, right? So the question today is, well, how do we do that, right? How do people that are starting businesses that may not be at the level of Patagonia or Qualcomm, right? How do we create a business that is sustainable and profitable and yet impactful? Right, so the agenda for today is, number one, I'm going to give you a reason why social impact programs is a powerful strategy for business growth. And I'm going to show you how successful social impact companies do that. And then I'm going to give you 3 yet effective steps that you can immediately implement in your own business, right? To put you in that on the right track, right? So that you can get to the position where you can be both sustainable, profitable, and impactful. So, a social impact program, what is that, right? So, we come across a lot of companies that say, we are a sustainable company. Apple is good at saying that, right? We are a sustainable company. A lot of companies, Amazon, Tesla, a lot of the large companies say we're sustainable and we're doing everything we can to protect the environment. But that's different from having an actual social impact program, right? So saying that you're taking care of things like sustainability and the environment and your people, internally is quite different from actually having a program that addresses a social or environmental problem, right? By engaging all your stakeholders. So not just internally, right, but externally as well, right? So you need to think about your vendors, you need to think about your customers, right? You need to think about your clients, right? When we think about a social impact program. So a lot of programs that are touted to be social impact programs are sometimes inward looking, right? Whereas a social impact program is outward reaching, right? It's a public program. You're trying to outreach. You're trying to do outreach, right? And Patagonia and Qualcomm that we just talked about, those are two really good companies that you can see doing a lot of outreach, right? A lot of social impact program where the impact is on society and the environment and not just internal. Right, and this is the CEO of Deloitte. And the reason why social impact programs are a really good, effective way to grow your business is because if you can figure out how to do that, the people are willing. And I'm not just talking about customers, right? I'm talking about partners. I'm talking about vendors are more likely to want to work with you to help you grow, right? So this is a quote from the CEO of Deloitte, Punit Ranjan, and he says that there is evidence that companies led by socially conscious leaders are growing revenue more than those who haven't successfully found the balance between doing good and making a profit. Right? They're changing and developing products or services to benefit society and are integrating societal impact into their core strategies, right? And we're talking about impact here, right? So I want to do a quick poll to just get your feedback on how you think companies can use social impact, a social impact program to build their business, right? So I'm going to see what your response is. Right? So how can a well strategized social impact program build your business? Attract and retain talent, brand differentiation. Any lawyers in here? So Peter is a law student, right? Do you think that a good social impact program could potentially mitigate legal risk and increase resiliency? Right? So do we have anyone else? We have 6 votes and we have 17 people in the audience. Anyone else? What do you guys think? Foster innovation? Mitigate risk? 14 votes so far. Anyone else wants to vote? Remember, if you vote for the poll, you get points as well. That goes towards the leaderboard. Okay, so this is really cool, right? So everyone has voted, and let me see. The highest one is brand differentiation. Okay, so the answer is actually all of the above, right? So if you have a really good social impact program, you can actually achieve all these things, right? And all these things are a very powerful way to actually grow your business, right? So if you can actually have a social impact program that differentiates your brand and set it aside from all your competition, right? That's a very good. There's a very powerful way to actually grow your business, right? You can actually increase access to ESG funds, impact investors, if you position yourself as a social impact business, and of course, new markets open up as well. You can also mitigate risk, especially legal risk, right? So if you are running a company and you know that you are in danger of flouting some laws, right? Pivoting your company, right, and doing more social impact work could actually mitigate those risks, right? So, for example, if you run a car company and there are parts of your car that are often getting recalled, right? And sometimes it's more expensive to pay the cost of litigation than to actually recall and actually design a parts that are actually not going to cause damage, right? That's a way to actually mitigate risk, right? And of course, it increases resiliency for your company if you are able to position yourself as a social impact company that then runs doesn't run into problems with fluctuating causes, right? So with COVID and with Black Lives Matter movements, a lot of the companies that have actually stood up and made a social impact commitment, to things like diversity and trying to address the pandemic, have actually turned out to be more resilient than companies that didn't, right? Social impact programs also forces you to be more innovative because you're trying to figure out how to address a social concern or an environmental problem through your business. So you definitely have to be more innovative. So it does make you more innovative as a company. That will also promote growth, right? It helps you attract and retain the right talent. And we talked about this earlier, right? And also reduce costs and inefficiencies because sometimes choosing a more sustainable, material could actually reduce costs within your company, and making more sustainable decisions could actually reduce inefficiencies and as a result, reduce costs, right? So if you can strategize and plan a well social impact program, your company can actually grow. Right. So we know that a social impact program can have all these benefits, right? So we know that on a theoretical level, right? But how do all these companies actually do it? Right? How does Patagonia do it? Right? How does Ben and Jerry, Trader Joe's, Nike, right? How do they remain profitable, become sustainable, and yet make an impact? So the very first thing I've noticed is that all successful social impact companies have amazing products and services that actually sell, right? So they actually have market offerings that sell. And the reason why I bring this up is because after talking to so many people that want to do social impact work, and they come to me and they say, I want to do sustainability, or I want to, make an impact. I want to, change education. Um, without a market offering, you're either a non-profit, right, or charitable organization, or a really expensive hobby, right? That's the way to think about it, because if you don't have products and services that actually sell, you're not a business, right? So the very first thing you will observe with every successful social impact business is that they have products and services that actually sell, right? Now, when we want to talk about products and services that actually sell, the most important thing, right, to know as a social impact entrepreneur is that you need to understand the value that you're providing the market, right? So what value are you offering the market? In other words, is there a market need or a desire for the solution that you're providing? right? We really need to understand this, right? If you're going to be a social impact business and you want to be successful, you need to have something to sell. And in order to have something to sell, you need to really understand the value that you provide your customers, right? And to get there, you actually need to know who your customers are, right? Who are you selling to, right? What are their needs? What are their challenges, right? And what kind of solutions are you providing them? Now that's essential, because unless you understand that, right, it's going to be very hard to understand the type of value that you're offering them, right? And until we figure these two questions out, it's again, impact work alone is not going to create a business, right? You need to have products and services that you can sell. And the final question, once you figure that out, that we really need to understand is, well, how do you reach them? How do you reach the people that you want to sell, that you are going to sell to, right? So, so that's the very first thing. That's the very first thing that all successful social impact companies that have figured this out, that's the one thing they have in common. They have amazing products and services that actually sell, right? So if we look at the way social enterprises is positioned, right? We write that very neat balance between a nonprofit charitable or a charitable organization, right, and a full-fledged for-profit above everything else type of company, right? So we need to figure out, well, how do we actually create products and services that we can actually sell, and then figure out the impact, right? So when we look at profits, right, we need to figure out how to sell so that we can actually create profits, right? The way the way a social impact business can actually make profits, right? There are very few. I mean, there are very few time and tested strategies, right? Number one, you can actually lower your cost, right? So, is there a way to lower the cost of producing your product or services? And if you think about social impact in a very strategic way, you could actually do that by changing the materials and the ingredients that you put into the final product, right? So a more sustainable way of creating a product might be to have paper packaging, for example, right? Or biodegradable packaging, which might cost less, right? Given talking to the right people and partnering with the right people than plastic, right? Or you could also increase your price or your revenue by having more revenue streams, or pricing more, right? So in when you do that, you transfer part of the cost of providing social impact to to your consumers, right? And again, done right and targeting the right customers, you can actually do that. Whole Foods is a great example, right? People shop at Whole Foods and are willing to pay the higher prices because they know that Whole Foods care about food and food security and trying to address hunger and all that, right? So you could actually increase your price or revenue. Or you could increase your market share by positioning yourself as a social impact company and displacing, your non-sustainable competitor or your non-social impact competitor. Or you could also disrupt the industry, right? You may come up with a completely new business model that completely disrupts the industry, and that's a way for you to be profitable. Grameen Bank is one of those examples, right? Microloans is an industry that, or rather, a way of doing business that has disrupted the finance industry, right? So those are one way in which you can think about increasing profits, right? So again, I want you to get you guys thinking, and I have another poll for you, right? Now, when you are in your business, let me see. When you are in your business, what's the easiest way for you to make a profit? right? In other words, look for the lowest hanging fruit, right? How can you make a profit within your business, right? Increase market share. That's a good one, right? So if you can figure out how to position yourself as a social impact company and make sure that you stand head and shoulders above your competitor, right? That's a way to increase market share, definitely, right? Lowering cost, right? That takes innovation. So when we talk about how do we lower cost, you have to get your creative wheels spinning, right? And you need to start thinking about, well, how do we be really innovative here, and how do we reduce our costs? Increasing price or revenue, again, yeah, right? If you can again think about, again, this is market positioning, right? If you position your product or service to the right group of people, like Whole Foods, right? Then you can actually increase your price and your revenue, charge more, right? So that the people that buy from you actually help pay for the social impact work that you're doing, right? And also increasing. We talked about increasing market share. We talked about lowering costs, increasing price or revenue, and yeah, and disrupting the industry. Now, if you can actually think, if it's the disrupting the industry, you're actually looking for the metaphorical blue ocean, right? If you can come up with something completely innovative, right? And when you come up with something innovative, but making sure that the price is accessible enough so that many people buy your product, and then you create that network effect, right? That's a way to disrupt industry, right? And if you can do that, that's also another way to increase your profits, right? Right. So I want you guys to start thinking, right? Be innovative, be creative, right? Explore your options, talk to people, right? To figure out how to increase your profits. Okay. So now so having products, amazing products and services that sell is one of the ways in which companies like Patagonia, Qualcomm have been really successful. But the other side of the coin, right, that I think a lot of companies in the social impact space do really well is that they actually care, right? They genuinely care about the impact that they're having on their communities, society, and the environment. And they understand inherently that that's the only way to do business. So, in other words, they have products and services that sell, but right, they are not going off on the other extreme where they are all about profits first, or they haven't subscribed to Milton Friedman's idea that you need to exclusively take care of your shareholders, right? They actually genuinely care about their stakeholders, their communities, their society, the environment, and they actually care. They understand that to be successful as a business, you have to do that. So I think a lot of social entrepreneurs, at least the ones that I talk to, they figured this out a lot, right? They've spent a lot of time here, right? But if you haven't, right, one way to start asking yourself those questions, right, about putting a stake in the ground, right, caring about your stakeholders. The very first question to ask is, well, how do you show up for them, right? And who are your stakeholders? So your stakeholders aren't just your shareholders, right? Your shareholders, they are a part of this larger ecosystem, right? But it's just not your shareholders, right? It's also your community, right? The people that you are serving, your clients, right? You actually need to genuinely care about your clients. So in other words, your clients or your customers shouldn't be a statistic on social media, or a statistic on a P&L sheet, right? You actually have to take care of your customers and your clients. You also have to consider your vendors, right? Who are you going to partner with, right? Who should you partner with? What are their values? Are they aligned with yours? Then you also should also consider your employees. How do you treat them, right? Do you have resources in place to help them succeed, right? And another thing that I think social impact companies should also think about are the norms within your organization. Are there norms that exist? Are there implicit biases that exist within your organization that are affecting your employees? Right. So sometimes you may have the right strategies in place, but if there are underlying norms and implicit biases that exist within your organization that are not addressed, that's going to affect your employees, right? So the question is, right, is to be aware of all your stakeholders and again be aware of where they are in within your ecosystem. Then you ask yourself, well, how do I show up for them, right? How do I elevate them, right? If they need to be elevated, how do I protect their interest, right? How do I make sure that the people that we are working with have the values that are aligned with ours, right? And also you should also ask whether you're ready to put your stake in the ground. In other words, are you ready to say, okay, this is who we are as a social impact company, and not just talk about sustainability, which a lot of companies do, right? So the B Corp, sorry, the what was it, the Business Roundtable, right? They were recently criticized by the CEO of Patagonia for not supporting laws that want to address climate change and all that, right? And the issue is they promote sustainability and all so much within their own organizations, right? But when there is a call to promote laws that want to facilitate investment in addressing climate change and all that, they have not made that stand, right? So the question is, are you ready to put your stake in the ground? Are you ready to say, okay, we are going to commit to this social cause, right? And then what do you stand for? And these are questions that probably need a little bit more thought, right? But if you can figure this out, then you address the second part of the equation, the impact, right? So charitable organizations, nonprofits, right? They have figured out impact already, right? They have their theory of change. They work with design thinking all the time. They figured it out, right? The on the other hand, the corporations, right, corporate America, right, even responsible enterprises. So like some companies are, they position themselves as, we are socially responsible. We care about, we have ESG commitments and we care about the environment. Those kind of companies, I wouldn't quite classify them as social enterprises per se, right? Because it's still profit first for those type of companies, right? And the outward impact isn't as pronounced, right, as social enterprises, right? So if you're positioned as a social enterprise and you want to be sustainable and profitable, you need to figure out these two things, right? How do you be as profitable as you can possibly be, but at the same time care enough about your stakeholders that you are actually making an impact, right? And so that's the question. So when we talk about impact, there are a couple of things you can actually think about, right? Number one, the type of products and services you offer, who you employ and partner with, right? Do you need to change laws, right? Or lobby to get laws changed, right? Or can you provide the infrastructure to actually create an impact? Again, these are effective ways to actually make an impact through your business, right? So having said all that, I want to come back to the main issue the main topic in this presentation, right? Giving you 3 highly effective yet simple tools that you can immediately implement to set you on the path to sustainability and profitability, right, as a social impact business. So number one, the one thing you can do immediately is to look at your product offerings, right? Look at your product offerings and make sure it's something that your ideal customer wants or needs, right? And sometimes it may be just a little tweak, right? so that you solve your customers' problems immediately, right? But that's the easiest thing to do, right? Look at your offerings and look at your market offerings. Number two, master the art of marketing and selling. So again, this is something that I think social impact entrepreneurs need to do, is to learn to market and sell. And I call it the art of marketing and selling, because marketing and selling is really about communication, right? Authentic communication with people that may need your solution. It's really finding out from your ideal client and from your potential buyer, right? Is this something that would solve a problem that you are having, right? So the second easiest way to get on the path of sustainability and profitability is figuring this out. How do you market and sell your product, right? So that's the second thing to think about. The third thing to think about that will set you on the path to sustainability and profitability. I promise this, and I'm willing to bet my last dollar on this point. Is you need a bold vision to provide your business with forward trajectory, and you need smart goals, right? And the reason why I talk about a bold vision is because as social entrepreneurs in running a social impact business, you are faced with so many decisions that you have to make, not only about your business but about impact stuff, right? That means, who do you work with, what do you do with the partners that you work with, right? What type of activity do you engage in, right? If you have a theory of change, you need to figure out the activities that go into that theory of change, right? So you have a lot of decisions that you need to make as a social entrepreneur. And it's very hard to know what's the right decision without a bold vision. So you need to have a vision for your business and how you want your business to operate in the world, right? So it's very important to have that so that you can actually say no to the things that don't matter, right? So that's the next easiest thing for you to do, right? Is figure out what's the vision you want to have for your business, and then set smart goals, right, towards that vision, including impact goals, right? So what does SMART stand for? SMART. What's a SMART goal? Does anyone know? Coming back to the chat. Okay. What's a SMART goal? SMART. SMART. Does anyone know what it stands for? Well, I missed all these comments on the chat. I'm gonna have to go back and read it. But does anyone know what SMART goals mean? What SMART stands for? It has to be specific, right? So you need to have a specific goal. So in other words, not an ambiguous one. It has to be, we are going to do this, right? And you need to have a specific goal. Yep. Measurable, exactly. Actionable, realistic or relevant, right? So it has to be realistic or relevant to your business, right? And T is time bound or time related, right? Yeah, exactly, right. You have to have smart goals that will help you reach your vision. So these are three very simple but very highly effective ways to actually get you moving in the right trajectory towards becoming sustainable and profitable, right? You need to let me get back my slides. You need to make sure that your market offerings are something that your ideal client wants. You need to master the art of marketing and selling, and you need to have bold vision, right? Okay, so A question. What's the one thing you would do immediately after this webinar to move the needle towards creating a sustainable and profitable social enterprise? What are you going to do? And I want you guys to really think right now, because once we finish this webinar and we go into the networking session and that's over, I want you guys to go and implement this, right? What's the one thing you can do that will help you move your needle towards a more sustainable and profitable social enterprise? Do you need to go back and look at your market offerings? Do you need to brush up, on how you sell and market your product, right? Or do you need to come up with that vision, right? Maybe up to this point you haven't had a vision. You've just been doing things on a day-to-day basis, right? We don't want to just put out fires. We want to move forward in a purposeful direction, right? So any feedback in the chat? I've come back to the chat so I can see your comments now. Um, but what's one thing you can do? I'm a law professor, so I'm going to start calling on people if I don't hear comments. Okay, Aaron, awesome. Advocate for ESG metrics in investment. Perfect, right? So that are applicable across all borders. Yeah. So I guess the ESG metrics are your products and services, right? And if you can narrow that down, advocate for ESG metrics. Okay, yeah. And if you can advocate that for your investment community, that would be an effective way to reach out to them. I think here is that I guess that's your communication, right? Your part of your marketing and selling. Dolly says create a sound theory of change, right? TOC. Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Aaron. So Dolly says create a sound theory of change with impact metrics. Perfect, right? So the theory of change, actually, the theory of change is really that vision statement, right? And it gives you that forward trajectory. So that's great. If you can work on a theory of change, come up with impact metrics, that's perfect, right? Discuss this information with the team I work with. Awesome. Explore whether starting a nonprofit versus evolving into a social enterprise makes sense. Perfect. Be more intentional. Need to regroup. Right. Develop vision. Awesome. Refine UX and user interface to be more precise. Awesome. Yeah. And shall continue to show how businesses can profit by building in strong ESG metrics. Perfect. Right. So this is all really good, right? And the reason why I say that is it puts you in that forward trajectory. All right, so let me see. So let's see. Let's revisit our leaderboard because I am excited to see where we are. Awesome. Okay, so the reason why I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm not sure if you guys can see as well. But I think, let me see. Yeah. Can you guys see the prices? Right above the leaderboard, there is the prizes, right? So if you are top, you get 3 free tickets. And I'm going to make this announcement a little bit. If you are second, you get 2 free tickets. And you are third, you get 1 free ticket to a series of events that we are organizing, right? So as you guys probably know, we are in the decade of action for the UN Sustainable Development Goals, meaning that if we are going to achieve the SDGs by 2030, this is the decade to actually act, right? And there has been called by the UN to actually engage with the SDGs so that we, get that forward momentum. Where we've been talking about forward momentum throughout this webinar, we want to get to that forward momentum. So as the Changemaker Institute, what we're doing is we are actually running a SDG, a UN SDG event series where we are going to go through each one of the SDGs each month. So it's going to take us 17 months to go through each one of the SDG, but we're going to have an event each month on one of the SDGs. And we are going to start we're going to start the very first one in October. So October 19th is when we're going to start the very first event. And it's titled "The Social Value of Intellectual Property Rights." And as you guys know, I will be talking about, because of my background in IP, I will be talking about copyright, and someone's going to come and talk about the social value of patents, and someone's going to come and talk about the social value of trademarks, and we're going to have a roundtable discussion after that on the stakeholder economy and the future for business. So everyone's invited. There is probably going to be a minimal cost to attend, which is why we're giving out the free tickets. But it's going to be minimal. But we want this event to be fully actionable, not just conceptual, right? So if there's any if there's any SDG that relates specifically to what you're working on, right, attend that, right? Because we're going to try to give you as much actionable tools that you can go ahead and implement within your company and within your community, right? So this will all be held on AirMeet, which is why we love AirMeet. It's a really cool platform, and we're running this entirely on AirMeet. And we are planning for a hybrid event in 2023, and then the last event is going to be also hybrid, right? So let me see. Right, so we are going through the entire SDGs, all the SDGs that will take us into April 2024. So if you are interested in attending, if you're interested speaking, partnering, or sponsoring these events, go to changemakerinstitute.org/UN SDGs event series interest, and let us know, right? And my team, someone on my team will follow up with you on this, on potentially on attending, speaking, partnering, and sponsoring. Bye, Shell. It's good that you got to come. We'll catch up soon. But here's the link. I should have copied the link so that I could put it in the chat. I didn't. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not able to copy it here, but if you go to the site, you will be able to let us know, right, your interest, and then we look forward to having you at our events. Oh, thank you, Rennie. Thank you so much. Yeah, so let us know, and we really hope that you can be a part of the series. So I want to make sure that I finish on time, and I did. So this is us. If you need to look us up, my email and my LinkedIn is here as well. I welcome connections. I think we publicized this event on LinkedIn, so we may be already connected on LinkedIn. If we're not, please connect with me. So I'm going to end this session, and I'm going to start the networking session. So please stay. I want you guys to meet each other. I want you guys to engage with each other. I know the leaderboard is going to partly depend on the networking session as well, and how you guys, the more engagement you guys have in the networking session will also increase the points at the leaderboard. So please stay, and please engage with each other, right? So I'm going to end the session, and I'm going to start the networking session. So just hang on. And before that, I think someone had asked earlier whether this will be available, and the answer is yes. The presentation will be available. You just need to get back to AirMeet after the event, and the presentation is going to be there, right? So it will be available. All right, I'm going to end the session, and I will see you guys at the networking session.